Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Mythgard in Middle-earth. My name is Corey Olson, the Tolkien Professor, joined as always by my friend Gryfflet, who is bracketed here by Legolas and Gimli looking towards the ruins of Mount Doom as we prepare to re-engage with the dwarf plot line, the Stout-axe plot line here in Dorobarth. Good afternoon, everybody. All right. Resuming the Mordor storyline. Having learned my lesson about, going off trail in Gorgoroth here. All right. Exactly, Drow-snake. I was a fool to go off trail. No cross-country shortcuts. Good to see everybody today. So, hang on a second. Let me pause for a moment. Okay, so I've got that enemy camp up ahead. That is... Fusham Tomb. Okay. Alright. So what I'm doing here, I'm just reminding myself of what I'm doing. So I'm still defeating enemies, right? Vaguely. Good. I'm searching the rubble for lesser artifacts. Hang on a second. Sorry, map. Hit the loading thing. Oh, okay. Right. Because I'm still doing the quests given to me by the captive dude who sent me after a couple of the captains of Sauron, and now I'm down to their lieutenants and sergeants right underneath that. Okay, no problem. Spakorth. So Spakorth is one of those. Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to a place which somehow I know he's been. Oh no, I heard a rumor from somebody or other. I'm looking for Narcraw, who's some kind of monster. That's in Barad-dûr. Looking for signs of Crossafursa at her last known location. Okay, right, the spirit one, the Wraith. And, and now I'm recalling the Stout-axe expeditions. That's the one that killed me. And then I finished the Watching Stones one. So, okay. All right, no problem. So I'm going to set... Hang on. I'm going to set this one as my... no, that's not what I'm meant to do. I'm going to set this one as my... focus. Alright. And I'm going to try approaching them from this direction. Okay. Okay, so... on the one hand, I'm thinking about the sort of clarity of the storylines. I've been talking about this. I was certainly talking about this in Udun, that I felt there was a certain confusion. I felt a certain confusion or sort of muddiness between... about the role, essentially, that I was, that we're being placed in within the storyline here. Am I, exploring behind enemy lines here in Mordor, or am I part of the, expeditionary force? All right, I think it looks like they're probably on this side of that lava So let's cut across this way here. Follow the arrow. Best we can. Yeah, and let's also not do this on a war steed, maybe? Okay. Okay. Yep, we're going to stay on this side of that channel. Not assume we can cross it. Yeah, as I say, the oh, there we go. The thing, of course, that I sort of immediately contrast it to is that that whole Second Age storyline, the Battle of the Last Alliance storyline. Good grief, that's the impossible one. All right, I think I got to go back up to the road and then try to come at it from the other side. Oh, was I not stealth? Well, that fire drake isn't serious. Yeah. See, I knew he was only pursuing me in a casual manner. Anyway, so yeah, so again, I think about the Last Alliance quest line, and there it was clear. That is to say, it was clear that we were part of an invading force, right? And they were in control of the area. And there were like mobs, but they were like the mobs were clearly behind enemy lines. Like I said, like that was the frontiers were clear. Here in Dora Marth, it feels a little bit the only evidence that we've seen of Gondorian forces is the camp back at Dingarth. We've so far not seen a single thing. And therefore, it feels But again, they did the same thing in Udun also. Okay, alright, so there's Spakorth, and this is Lûghash right here. Uh-huh. I think I'm just going to go ahead and... Well, okay, fine, I'll turn it in. Just in case he gives me a follow-up.
Our fortunes are lost, and our people broken.
Some of the spirits fled into Lûghash, you say? That is no good at all. It is certain that the Mistress Zoreth shall wish to speak with me about what her spirit saw, so it shall be my task to convince her that no threat comes to the flaming spire. I doubt she shall protest when I tell her that we drove you and your armies from Mordor. Right. Okay, so you're bragging about driving our armies from Mordor. Right. So Spakorth there just implied that... Okay, I'm trying to check in my triangulation here. Spakorth there just implied that our armies, plural, need driving out of Mordor. Now, again, even if it were just a foothold, or even, the foothold, that would apply. Okay. All right. Hang on a second. I might as well do the... Which one is it? The treasures one? Oh yeah, this is the Cross of Fusa one. Oh, Okay. All right, I'll look around here. You don't see the wraith, but you notice him nearby Uruks. All right. Probably not in the right direction. But not far away either. Okay. Find an Uruk who might know more about the Cross of Forces task. What am I supposed to talk to him? He's just cowering there? He won't talk to me. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I see. Just gonna spawn a couple other ones. Oh, here we go. Looks like she's still looking for something, you filth. Okay. Alright. Not illuminating. Find an orc who might know even more than that she's, you know, vaguely looking for something. Okay. I just go back to the first guy? I see. I did them out of order is my problem. She went up to the hills, the ones with the towers. No one goes there. Okay. Where's that? Oh. Okay. Alright, fine. In other words, it's definitively further in after Lûghash. Okay, so I'm approaching, but not going to attempt to cross. Oh, man. Okay, hang on. I've got a path here. Got a path. Just not going to try to climb anything. Okay, still heading in the vaguely right direction. Hey there, Mr. Mordor Rhinoceros. Okay. Okay, does this count as climbing? A little bit. This terrain is just dreadful. It's so bad. I mean, I know it's like it's supposed to be, but still. What is going on here? I'm now in exactly the terrain I swore never to enter again. But I see no other way down here. Huh. So I am on the... I'm just noticing collapsed structures there. Oh, hey, look. Real terrain. That's refreshing. Oh. I think I found him. Yes! Okay, where are you guys working? Don't do that. Yeah, back to Lûghash. And I can mithril coin out of here. Splendid. Phew. Okay.
Long have we toiled, and for what?
I am saddened to learn that some of my folk fell into the fires of the mountain. It seems even keeping a careful pace is no longer enough. The tremors have grown more powerful since Sauron's fall, and new cracks form in the earth with each passing day. It is challenging to keep a steady footing when you cannot trust that the ground shall remain whole beneath you. We shall have to be more careful next time the mistress sends us out in search of whatever it is we're meant to find. For those who have returned, they shall enjoy a long-awaited rest. Okay. Great.
How have we fallen so far?
We stand before the main gate of Lûghash, but you must not enter it. The mistress has watching stones guarding the inside of the gate, and if you are detected, she shall bring her wrath down upon us all. Many years... okay. So again, like, invading armies have had nothing to do with this. Like, this is... she's just sitting here undisturbed, still in her seat of power. So, like, Aragorn's armies walked right past here, and they're like, oh, look, stronghold up there on the left. It's fine. We'll leave it, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's fine. Okay, let's see. Many years ago, she allowed us to construct a second hidden gate. Many years ago, she allowed us to construct a second hidden gate leading from our barracks out to the parapet far above us. We grew weary of her spirits lingering near us and begged her to keep the watching stones away from our barracks. We did not expect mercy, but she relented and set them only as guards within the main gate. Do you understand? You must enter through the hidden gate if you are to remain beneath the mistress' notice. It is not hidden in the ways of the dwarves. Oh, I see. It's not like... It's made to be seen when shut, is what you're telling me? But it's hidden from the spire's face. Behind the spire, you will find a dirt pathway leading into Lûghash, onto Lûghash itself. You must follow our lamps of crystal to a small shadowed alcove. It is there you shall find the hidden gate. Okay. Go now. I must still speak to the mistress to calm her fears about the spirits you drove back to the spire, but once that is done, you shall find me in the barracks on the central level of the spire. Alright, so I'm finding the rear pathway, I'm finding the trail of crystal lamps, and I'm finding the hidden gate. Fair enough. Okay, and so yep, this is definitely what I'm doing next. Okay, don't go in the front gate. Plan A. Okay, so let's go around. Alright, I think this is our way in. So I'm, Phil, you were mentioning, does my mic sounds quiet to you? That's really interesting to me. I mean, on my, so I'm, what is it, devoted sorcerers? It doesn't sound quiet? Okay. Well, I'd hope not. Because, I mean, of course, I'm broadcasting using OBS. Whoa. I'm broadcasting using OBS, and my sound is almost peaking on OBS. So I'm like, don't really know what more I can do. But it's interesting because it's this. I've been having a couple other discussions lately about volume, and again, I'm similarly puzzled, as it seems that everything in my power to do, I have done, and I don't know why. It would be weird, but I've got a bunch of devoted things, and that, apart from the fact that they're just vaguely enemies, which, by the way, I've impressively not completed. All of the explorations I've done in Dora Marth, and I've still only killed 3 things, and almost all of those. Expedition leader? Order of the Eye? Again, this seems relevant. Okay. I think. Is this it? It's the back door? It looks like the back door. Unfortunately, I don't seem to have stepped on any of the right spots, though. Hello? Anybody home at the back door? No. Ooh. New statue. So that's the moon, right? The spiky moon? It's like a Morgul thing, vaguely? Okay. No. This doesn't seem to be it. I'm not triggering anything. It looks like... Oh, yes, I did trigger something. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. I was going to say, this certainly looks like the back door if there ever was a back door. Okay. Here we go. Sorry. I missed the first notification. I don't know how I missed that. Okay. So I'm up here. Now I got to find... Trail of crystal lamp. Oh, hey, crystal lamp. Gotcha. All right, here we go. Making progress. I'm supposed to go up to a parapet, so up is good, I guess. All right. Oh, and there's a door. Oh, all right. Gimli's ready. Enter the hidden gate. All right, Gimli, what do you think? So this is the other thing. Again, like, on the one hand, the people were talking, like Spakorth there was talking as if our armies have conquered. But there's no evidence of it. Gimli and Legolas roam around freely as if it's already conquered and reasonably safe territory. Right. It's so still a little weird in that way. I mean, on the one hand, I can respect it. I can respect the fact that they are... I don't know. I mean, basically, they seem to be wanting to give me two different experiences at the same time. You know, and that's cool. It seems to be a question of, like, they're accepting what the book describes. You know, I'm thinking of what the Herald says, like what the Eagle says to Faramir and the people in Minas Tirith, right? That the Dark Lord has fallen and his gates have been broken and your king has passed through, right? And is victorious. So yeah, that's like status, right? So on the one hand, they're constructing all of these quest lines from within the context of that as a status. And so therefore kind of appealing to that whole state of the world, trying to build that. Rather than have Aragorn here and us progressing with the armies of Aragorn as we did, earlier on in the lead up to the Battle of Pelennor Field and the lead up to the Battle of the Black Gate, they could have continued doing that. They could have continued having us be, because, there we were scouting on ahead of the army, right? And we could have continued in that role as we were coming through here into Mordor. But instead, they wanted to take that, whole post War of the Ring, essentially, right? And say it's not over. Anyway, so on the one hand, they want to give us that as a state and establish it as a sort of a stable state in which to have this whole quest line. And because we're not only, as I know from going through the epic with my Guardian, it's not just going to be exploring around here in Mordor, it's also going to be popping up to the Iron Hills and the Grey Mountains, and then back down to Minas Morgul, right? So, all that stuff is sort of part of this overall quest line. So instead of having the story just follow Aragorn's armies as before, they want to establish that, as I say, as a sort of a framework for the whole thing. But at the same time, the other experience that they seem to be wanting to provide to us is to make us almost like a surrogate for Aragorn's armies, right? Like they don't want to like chain Aragorn and the rest of the Gondorian army down to, progressing through Mordor alongside us, right? And make it as if that is, because again, the effect of that it would make Aragorn's conquest of Mordor seem like another long drawn out war, and you certainly do not get that impression from the book, right? That would be a pretty major change. It would certainly feel like a very major change to imagine Aragorn involved in a multi-stage, many month-long war, which is what it would feel like, right? If he were, if we were proceeding with his armies. So again, we're not doing that. Instead, we're the surrogate, right? We're finding all of these captains, unconquered, and like this fortress still standing undisturbed by the side of the road, which again is not exactly how. You can't imagine Aragorn leaving that, right? Again, seriously, like he surely would have gone to the ruins of Barad-dûr, right? No question. If his army entered in here, they'd have come past here. And apparently, again, we're supposed to imagine he was just like, oh yeah, there we go, existing stronghold on our flank there. Let's just leave it. It's fine, right? No, like that would never have happened. But again, they're kind of having their cake and eating it too, right? Let's imagine we're post Aragorn, so Aragorn is officially conquered, right? But there's lots of mopping up to do, which is legit. Like that's pretty much the thing. The amount of mopping up is a little bit like the mopping up quotient is unrealistically high, right? And so if we think about that too much, to me, it undermines the story a little bit. But as I say, I can respect what they're trying to, both of the things that they're trying to do, both merely asking us to accept the phase, the status of Aragorn has already officially conquered, right, Mordor. And yet, we all, at the same time, we are Aragorn conquering. Not that we're playing Aragorn, but you see what I mean. Like we are put into the position of doing that thing. So instead of coming in and finding everything already done and just being a sightseer wandering around Mordor, which I would object to, instead we are doing that work that I keep saying that like obviously Aragorn would have done had he come through here. So as I say, it's not that it's without conflict. It's not that it's without tension. And it makes it harder. I find that tension kind of comes through. It sort of is peeking at me around several of the storylines that we're seeing here. But I can roll with it. But it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting even to kind of think it through a little bit more here. Yeah. So Mountain Leash, when I say conquered, that's what I mean. Yeah. It isn't that, again, there was no major war. Like he entered in and he took possession. And the armies of Mordor had broken. Like, again, that's why it would not be realistic. Or rather, it would feel, from an adaptation standpoint, it would feel like a much more major departure from the book story. To have Aragorn's armies advancing in and fighting against all this stuff, right? But Mountain Liege, that's exactly where the differences from the books, however, have been greatly asserted, is leaving so much work for us to do. All this stuff about the captains of Mordor and all of their armies and strongholds and everything, this is all, I mean, almost all of it. Almost all of it is made up, which, again, is fine, and kind of fits the parameter of, like, there still being cleanup to do. Again, that makes sense from within the context of the story. But again, if there is this much armed resistance, remember, this was first striking me, and I was talking about this weeks ago in real world time, months ago probably, when I was first riding through Udun, right? And you go through the valley of Udun, and you look, and there's just, like, enemies everywhere. And not only are there enemies everywhere, an enemy camp still full of orcs and trolls and everything else, but they're all still busy. They're not the forces of Mordor, not at all in disarray, right? Not at all broken and in hiding and need to be rooted out of their hiding or something like that. Again, which is more like the state that's described. So that's exactly the point. He didn't come through and fight battles and conquer it, Mountain Leash. It's exactly correct, because he didn't have to, right? But the way they've described what we see when we walk around Mordor in game is a place that absolutely does need to be conquered still, right? Aragorn and his army would not have strolled through here and been like, yep, okay, our work here is pretty much done, right? None of it looked like none of it looked like this, right? None of it looked like this kind of a fortress still in operation and manned and everything else. But again, here, that's where I just have to kind of like sort of split my own imagination, right? To, on the one hand, imagine that state described by the book of Mordor basically broken, officially under Gondorian control again. And yet also we are a dynamic part of that process at the same time. So, we're in the state of the thing existing and bringing that same thing into being simultaneously. That's where the tension in the storylines comes, and that's where I have to do a little bit of imaginative work, right, to kind of situate myself there. And I keep kind of flipping back and forth. No, the book does not say much about what happens in Mordor proper after the fall of Sauron Edith. That's completely true. But the point is, how do you... no, it doesn't. But again, this is the adaptation challenge that they're trying to meet here is that it is one that is primarily thrust upon them. By them, of course, I mean the Standing Stone folks. It's primarily thrust upon them by the genre of adaptation that they're doing. That is to say, MMO video game, right? If they were to be... Because you're right, Edith, the book doesn't say much about what happens in Mordor. But if there were still so very much that needed to happen in Mordor, right? Again, if there were still so many battles that had to take place, some mention would have been made, right? I mean, like, again, think of in the book, like Field of Cormallen, and afterwards when they're like, and now the time of peace has come, and all the armies are going home. Like, well, really? Like, would they do that if, there were still these, like, strong captains and, think about what, Eorzin, the Boastful, was saying when we were meeting him with Gandalf outside the Black Gate, or at the Black Gate. And he was like, yes. Remember, like, those lines when he was like, you may have defeated Sauron, but you haven't defeated, like, basically, you're not only are you not finished with this project, you are not even like, it's going to be harder even than it was to defeat Sauron. Remember that language now again? Like, he was probably exaggerating and stuff. But again, if that were the case, then the entire post-Field of Cormallen situation in the book could not happen. Nobody would be like, and now let us stroll back to Minas Tirith in peace and everything is fine. Right? It could be a Eorzin the hyperbolic drow snake, absolutely. And there was clearly, but even accounting for the hyperbole, right? The situation, again, not only the situation that has been described, but the situation that we have seen. is not really in keeping. Like, yes, we're getting a fill in the blanks here. And they're doing as they have done from the very beginning. Filling in the blanks has been the absolute backbone of the entire adaptation that the Lord of the Rings Online has done. And it's awesome. Like, again, none of this of what I'm saying is me complaining. As I say, I respect the things that they're trying to do. What I want to point out is, again, the way in which the genre of their adaptation has sort of boxed them in some ways. Because there's one thing that they can't do, and that is, in fact, have the armies of Mordor scatter. They can't make... like, in theory, they could have less going on here in Mordor. Fewer armies. It could be more of a hunting down and less of a walking through enemy territory kind of feel. But this is a level 115 area or something. What is it even? What quest am I on? Show me the quest. Where are we? 108. Okay. Yeah, so we're like 108, 110 area. It's supposed to be really, really challenging. They also, and here's the other thing, because this is also another thing that they're very sensitive to. I have shown themselves to be very sensitive to throughout Lotro, is they want, when they bring you to a place, when they bring you to a new region of Middle Earth, they want to make it, they work very hard. And again, this is me drawing conclusions based on what I've seen within the game. They work very hard to make sure that the new region of Middle Earth that you enter feels like what Tolkien describes. And the only description we get of Mordor is the brief glimpse at the Black Gate, the approach to the Black Gate, and of course Frodo and Sam's journey through Mordor. And so that ultimately is kind of what's being replicated here. If when we walk down that road, in Dora Marth, with Mount Doom rising on our right and the ruins of Barad-dûr in front of us, if it doesn't feel at all like Mordor as Sam and Frodo experienced it, and as we experience it with them in the book, then it's not going to be true to our Tolkien experience. And that's clearly a big part. You can see this from the very beginning. Think of the way in which they try to preserve our sort of lived book experience, right? In the Shire and in the Old Forest. And again, I'm thinking of like early game things. Rivendell, right? The discovery of Rivendell. In so many places they have shown from the very beginning and consistently through, they have tried to make sure that every place that you go to gives you the kind of experience that the book leads you to expect in that place, right? Another place that I think they did a wonderful job with this on was Rohan, right? I think Rohan is spectacular in this regard. Definitely you get that same sense. It's the same kind of thing that's happening in the book. Similar with Gondor and the Dawnless Day, right? So because you think about how they've been doing that all along. So now again, you're the game developers, right? You're making this story, and you're coming to Mordor. What do you do? Now there's scope for you, right? And it's exactly as you said. Tolkien has left plenty of gaps to fill in, right? We don't know exactly. I mean, clearly there was mopping up to do. And so that is a concept totally, again, it's absolutely legit. But if they, in fact, have the armies of Mordor broken, scattered, and in hiding, if all we're doing is hunting down terrified orcs who are cowering under rocks. Now, again, we've done a little bit of that, right, just recently. But still, like, if that's all we did, then it wouldn't feel like Mordor anymore. You know, if we were strolling through Mordor, you know, like an old West Marshal, you know, setting things back to rights. If that was the experience, that like we feel that we have that authority and everyone's running from us and we have to, you know, chase them down and bring them to justice. That might be, I mean, that could be made a fun story, but it wouldn't feel like Mordor. It would be very, very different from Frodo and Sam's experience, right? And therefore, the whole experience that we've had in Mordor as readers, as, you know, as Tolkien fans. Plus, as I say, they want to give us, as is so often the case, and another thing that Lotra has done so brilliantly throughout its adaptation, is to put us in the position to sort of live, you know, when something does happen off screen, when something is indicated that it has occurred, but Tolkien doesn't describe it, they let us live it, right? And the cleansing of Mordor, right? The going through and cleaning up and tidying up is a thing that did happen, right? I mean, again, we learn that it does occur. Right, and when we can't physically be there ourselves, they do session play or flashbacks. Yeah, exactly, Edith. They want to let us experience the story. This is the stuff to me, by the way, which is not only stuff that Lotro does particularly well, but this is where the genre of the open, you know, the MMO, the sort of open world MMO, is such a marvelous adaptation opportunity. Because the one thing that they have in this game that Tolkien didn't have, and that no film or TV adaptation will ever have, is time. The thing that it is the greatest luxury of doing an adaptation in this medium, is that you can be like, yeah, okay, we can tell a story which unfolds over hundreds of hours. Nobody can do hundreds of hours. Tolkien couldn't do hundreds of hours, right? I mean, Tolkien could not, in fact, write, like, was not, in fact, allowed to write a, 50,000 page book. And that probably wouldn't worked out too well anyway if he'd attempted it. And no TV show could do hundreds and hundreds of hours, but we can get hundreds of hours of gameplay. Right. So anyway, it's the greatest advantage of this genre, but there are downsides to this genre as well. And that is the quantity of combat, just based on how the game is set up, how the genre of games is set up. If they just had this whole Mordor quest line be like exploration and, again, hunting down the few scattered and scared remnants or whatever, it would clash with the genre. It would deviate from the expectations of players coming through the game. So how do they make it sufficiently challenging from, in video gaming? Right. Yeah. Edith said people complain about how narrative heavy Mordor Besieged was. Yeah. I was sure they would, because I loved it. Right. So like if it satisfied my narrative drive, like I would be pretty sure that there would be people complaining about it. Like it's, that seems a given. Anyway, so it's, I don't know whether I'm complaining about the storyline or whether I'm like doing apologetics for the storyline. I got some of both. I'm thinking, what I'm doing here is I'm thinking through the whole adaptation situation of the Mordor storyline. And it's a fascinating one. You have to think it through from all of these different angles. I find you have to think it through from all these different angles before it really makes sense. And certainly before one starts complaining and saying like, oh, I don't like how they did this or whatever, it's good first to think through like, what exactly are the challenges? What are the challenges they're trying to embrace? What are the patterns through which they have met those challenges, often spectacularly well, earlier in the game? And how do we see them kind of adapting and modifying and applying those strategies here in Mordor? And I think it's interesting. I mean, the leap they're asking me to make, the way they're kind of trying to have it both ways. All I have to do is basically imagine myself to be almost like the embodiment of, the invasion, right? I am both, in a sense, existing within that new fourth age, war is over and everything is okay and at peace now mode. And I'm also the one whose actions are bringing that about. And that's not logically consistent, but you know what? I can live with that. It's not that big an ask. It's not so big an ask that I can't handle it. Right. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Again, as usual. Well, I would think that Gimli, at least, if not Spakorth yet, would be used to the fact that Gryfflet sometimes stands in one place for 20 minutes doing nothing. Right. Gimli's like, again. Okay. Hey there. Nice shabby dwarf barracks. Oh wow, there's like services over there. That's cool. Yeah, sorry, Spakorth. It's not about going off on tangents. It's about we stop to do some analysis because it's how we roll, man. Friend in the conquest of Gorgoroth. Whom am I being allies with exactly? Friend in the... friend standing with the conquest of Gorgoroth. That's really interesting. I guess there are other times, for instance, when I was an ally to the Wold here. No, but see, even there, you must earn ally standing with the men of the Wold, right? This isn't even a group of people. Yeah. Okay. Ally in. That is so interesting. Prepositions. I love prepositions. So all of the deeds are either of or to. Friend of, friend to, right? Friend, ally, kindred with, right? But even kindred to. Okay, there's with. Yeah, kindred with the Great Company. So all of our ally prepositions have been with, to, or of. Yeah. With, to, or of. Oh. Okay, there's a by, respected by the host of the West. Okay, the respected in Minas Tirith. So there's one. I'm looking for other ones within. This is not the first one within. Respected in Minas Tirith. But that's a place, right, that you can go into. And I would hope that Gryfflet were respected in Minas Tirith. We spent enough time there. Ally in the conquest of Gorgoroth. This is an ally with an unstated group of people. Because again, notice it's exactly the tension I was described is implied in the deed title, right? Ally with whom? Well, Because there isn't anybody else, really. But, whatever. Like, there are people in occasional camps, right? Yeah. Ally with an unknown group of people in not a place, but in a project, right? That's really interesting. Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, Spakorth, sorry.
Long have we toiled, and for what?
Ah, at last you have come. I spoke to Mistress Zoreth, and she was pleased to learn that these strange invaders were driven out. She wishes to focus on her research in the heights of the spire, so I do not think we need worry about her for now. Now that that's all settled, I have a few duties to perform about the spire. If you would aid me with some of them, perhaps Gimli shall have more time to ask me his questions.
Long have we toiled, and for what?
Anybody else waiting for the sudden but inevitable betrayal of the Stout-axes? I'm getting that feeling. Maybe it's just me. Perhaps I'm too untrusting. Okay. It often falls to me to ensure that my folk best serve Mistress Zoreth, and as of late, that has meant tireless work. Even with so many new Stout-axes here after the fall of Barad-dûr, it seems like the work only grows more difficult. Our searches for Sauron's trinkets have not borne fruit, and the Mistress has become impatient. If we do not find something soon, I fear we shall lose her favor. And what would become of my folk then? See, this guy doesn't even envision the overthrow of his mistress. There's no sense of his mistress being on borrowed time, his strategy can just be to kind of sit tight, and sooner or later, Gondor, in the person of us, is going to come take care of his little problem for him, right? In addition to a few tasks of my own, my brethren here in the barracks and down at the forges below have quite a few tasks to finish. Oh, good. I haven't been sent out on routine tasks in, weeks. Sure, I'll aid them. Absolutely. Why wouldn't I do that? Hey, hang on a second. I just got good news there. I was being offered an invader's bracelet, and if I recall correctly, this is expeditionary stuff. Is invader different? Ah, I do have invader's pants and boots. So there's still hope of getting a matching hat, is what you're telling me? I shouldn't give up? Okay. I will gladly do errands if I can get my matching hat at last. Okay. Yeah, the chess piece is nice. I like the no, how about up here? Eyes up. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I think this is I always like the regional cosmetics. Gryfflet has a firm win in Rome policy. That's why he wants to complete his set. Cosmetics have been disappointing ever since Rohan. The Gondorian ones were very disappointing because they were all the same, mostly. But we've gotten into it now a little bit more, so I'm hoping for continuation of better things. Okay, Frankie.
Hope is dwindled, but it is not gone.
Since I returned to the spire, I noticed a few of the smiths of my kin looking unwell. They have toiled tirelessly for the mistress, and I think their hunger has finally caught up to them. In truth, we all hunger. We are allowed only meager rations of old meat and overripe vegetables. The folk of Núrin bear the burden of feeding all of Mordor, but there is little left for us once Mistress Zoreth's kin and the orcs have at it. Time out. Is Mistress Zoreth isn't a wraith, then? She serves the wraith woman. Because the wraiths don't eat all that much, right? So, whatever. The measly rations that still remain are piled about here in the barracks, and I would have you gather them for the smiths. Why do they want them if they have measles? But also, I am really, really hoping
that the piles of rations, that the floaty name is measly rations. I'm going to be very happy if the floaty name says measly rations. My kin may be displeased, but the health of our folk is worth more than one missed meal. Offer the smiths a brief respite and some rations, and if the mistress is displeased with me for allowing it, she can come speak to me for herself. Yeah, and then I could dispose of her, and then everybody's happy. Worked to... Yes! Measly ration. Love it. Love it. Okay. Task number 1, then. So Gryfflet runs errands again. Sweet. Okay, so I'm just supposed to pick up the 8 boxes at once here. Is what's happening. Yeah, that Zorith is human doesn't surprise me. That she's in the Order of the Eye, I expected after all of that Order of the Eye business in the mobs around back that I didn't fight. I've still only fought 3 creatures in all of Dora Marth yet. That's pretty burglarious. Pretty happy with that. Yeah, exactly, Drowsnake. I am also sure that I can fit all 8 boxes in my Elendil statue-sized pocket. It's why I have no concerns. Okay. Dreri. So first of all, it's interesting that the dwarf names here are following the same pattern. Like the Norse pattern. They sound like they could be the names of Durin's folk. Which is interesting to me. Because they needn't sound like that. In fact, one could argue they shouldn't sound like that. I know that that is the Standing Stone folks, have thought about this. Remember that the reason why Tolkien came up with a retroactive, he kind of retconned. Why is it that in The Hobbit, he had a bunch of dwarves, and he just literally pulled all their names from the Voluspa. Right, from the Poetic Edda. There's a long list of dwarf names. And so Tolkien's like, great! There we go. Convenient source for a bunch of dwarves who show up on Bilbo's doorstep. Including, of course, Gandalf, but that's a different story. Gandalf is one of the names of the dwarves. Long story, which I've told before. But anyway, he then had to, once the world had developed more, which it hadn't at the time of writing The Hobbit, once the world had developed more, he needed a reason. Like, why do all these dwarves have Norse names? Like, there has to be a reason for that. And he came up with a reason for that, of course, and the reason is that the dwarves have secret names in Khuzdul, which they don't share with others, so they take unto themselves names in the local language of the people they interact with. So they call themselves by their private names to each other, but when they interact with other peoples, they take names in the language of those peoples. And so Tolkien is imagining that Norse is basically sort of the language, the old language of Dale, basically. Which means the names that these dwarves are using would in theory then be derived from where, like, the language group that they came from. And by the way, I know that this is something that they were thinking about. They, the Standing Stone people, not the dwarves, were thinking about when they made, like, the Gelruka. And they gave them names from a different language. That's why the names of, by the time we get up further down, by the time we get further along, let me just change my distance metaphor, my spatial metaphor. By the time we get further along in the Black Book of Mordor, we will be introduced to yet a third group of dwarves, the Gelruka. And there we can see their names are quite different. They're not this sort of Norse-style name. But I'm interested in the fact that, so what they seem to be implying by choosing these sort of Norse-esque names like Freki and Dreri, is that these dwarves came from an area to the east, we're told, east of Mordor, but apparently close enough that the linguistic situation wasn't radically different, whereas the Gelruka, their original home, where their names and such came from, is further away. Yeah, anyway. Okay,
We endure, as we always have. That is our way.
Hail, so finally you come to Lûghash, eh? Finally you come to Lûghash? I've never met you before in my life. It is not a very fitting home for dwarves, but the mistress has kept us from the Deathless and the others of her kin, or so she did until Sauron fell. Now this ridiculous Order of the Eye won't leave us be. I know, they're coming around with pamphlets and everything and making themselves a nuisance, right? They actually believe he'll come back again. A foolish lot they are. If they were harmless, I'd leave them to their fantasies, but now they have come to the spire. They have tortured and killed my kin, all to gain Mistress Zoreth's knowledge of Sauron's artifacts. What would we know? We are her servants, not her trusted allies and advisors. If you would wish to aid me, bury my kin upon the fields surrounding Lûghash. They deserve that final honor. Come to think of it, if those cultists are still snooping about outside, bury them as well. Even if he does come back again, I don't want them around to be around to see it. Yes, Sauron is the reason for the season, is doubtless the message. Yeah. The whole Keep Sauron in Christmas campaign. Okay. Bury stout axes, defeat cultists. All right. I see. I knew when I saw all those Order of the Eye folks out there that I was going to be saying, it's a barber shop. Oh, look at that. That's fun. Hey, man. You look like you are peddling unspeakable wares tucked away in this corner. Like, one comes back here, inside here, and is like, hey, man, what do you got for me today? A haircut is the answer. Okay, I'm going to back slowly away from the clandestine barber. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Enough of this standing around.
Oh, no, you have totally other quests for me. All right. JJ says, psst, hey, buddy, you looking for a trim? Yeah. Phil, what I wonder is, I mean, it would be unfair to ask the Stout-axe this, but if Gryfflet could get one of those Gelruka mustaches, it would be worth it. But anyway, okay. For my part, I have but one task for you, and it is one of dire importance. The men of the Order of the Eye have been searching Dora Marth and the ruins of Barad-dûr for Sauron's artifacts since his fall, and they have taken careful note of all they found, as has Mistress Zoreth. One of my folk, Sversting, yep, there we are again, once told me of a rumor shared with him by Mistress Zoreth. She told him that King Greytooth was still held within the deeper dungeons of the Dark Tower, but she would speak no more of it when the rumor spread among us. I must know if the mistress spoke true. Does my king still live? The Order has sent expeditions all across Dora Marth, from the deepest depths of the black pits of Mordoth to the very gates of Lûghash. I would ask that you seek out their leaders and see if they bear any missives or orders that speak of King Greytooth. Okay, so I'm collecting a missive from Dora Marth, Expedition Leader. I'm collecting a missive from Mordoth, Expedition Leader, and from Lûghash, Expedition Leader. Okay. Spakorth, I really like your hat. I would absolutely wear that hat. And you're making it look good, Spakorth, I gotta say. Okay. Man, so I'm doing all kinds of things now. I gotta deliver rations. Let me finish doing the ration thing. When Gryfflet undertakes an errand. What is it? There's a quest ring, like, right here. No? Do I have to go downstairs? Are they downstairs? Yeah, okay. Alright. So there's a quest ring right under me, but... Okay. Alright, forges. Hey, guys! Brought some, like, vegetables. So, like, the mohawk, it's, like, kind of cool. Giving. Okay. Get your measly rations, everybody. There's Sversting. Hey, do you want some measly rations? Bet you do. Excuse me, can I interest you in any measly rations? Be right back, Sversting. I'm already doing an errand. Okay, from the posting of these guards, I'm guessing that that's a way to more bad guys. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna distribute. I hope I'm not actually distributing the measles. That would make me feel guilty retroactively. But, okay. That's right. Because Gryfflet, hero of many lands. Wow. Just happened right there. I just hit the wrong button is what happened right there. Oh, that's the front door? Really? So that's where I'm supposed to not go. Okay, and you are the last one to receive the measles. All right, so I can turn that into Freaky upstairs, but first let me go over and talk to What's-His-Face. Oh yeah, that's, again, Freaky's right above my head. The whole quest ring showing up without respect to altitude. Okay, Sversting.
Have you a mind to aid my folk?
At last we meet. Spakorth told us of the aid you brought his expedition, and I wish to look upon the outsider myself. You may call me Sversting, and I am the sea you may call me. And I am the Forge Master of Lûghash, the most skilled smith of all the stout axes that remain in Mordor. Aye, we are not as many as we once were, but it brings me great pride nonetheless. My works have earned me a great deal of Mistress Zoreth's favor, and she has told me of a great rumor she learned by spying upon the men of Barad-dûr. She claims that our imprisoned king still lives, locked away in the depths of the Dark Tower. It is too great a tale for me to believe at once, but what if it were true? Is this the expedition leader in Lûghash? If King Greytooth were to return to his people at last, he must have a weapon befitting a king. Spakorth tells me you wish to aid us, is that right? I would ask that you bring me wood from the abandoned banner poles and chunks of sharp obsidian from the banks of the lava flows. Also, the banks of the lava flows. Also, should you encounter any of the shards of Barad-dûr that were hurled from the Dark Tower as it fell, gather as much as you can. It is time we stout axes took something from Sauron. Okay, yeah, that's not creepy at all. Could I interest you in making axes out of good and wholesome materials instead of the materials of evil? Okay, all right, we'll head upstairs here. So that's the front gate. The front gate brings you into the forges. So right inside the front gate of Lûghash is the forge. And then you come up into the barracks. It's fine. It's good. Okay, Frankie.
This is no home for a dwarf.
She must share wisely the food that Mistress Zorth provides. We must share wisely. Hunger is a burden we stout axes must all bear, and as kin we bear it together. I hope some good fortune comes to us once we find what the Mistress desires. Oh, no follow-up quest, huh? Okay. All right, I think everybody else's quests are outside, yeah? In fact, they're all over the place outside. Yeah. Indeed. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. Looks like there's going to be some overlap here before too long. You still standing out here, Gimli? Still standing in both places? It's all good. Okay, it's time to go. Oops. Here's my list of questions. Let me not abandon poor Gryfflet here. Okay. I'm finding a lore question, which I forgot to get at my list of lore questions here before I started. Okay. Let's see. Okay. There was a question. I think this was last time. We've got these new dwarves here in Mordor and some more up north. Do you think the Jaruka, I assume he means. Do you think we'll ever come across some lost elves? I think it's going to be really interesting. So, yes, I do. I would expect that. And I think we get it. That is, I've heard rumor. I've not played Umbar yet. Heck, I haven't even played Gundabad yet. So I'm, as usual, a bit behind. But I've heard tell that is indeed exactly what happens. And, well, don't mind if I do. Little rusty small chest just sitting here, minding its own business. So yes, I agree. Apart from, obviously we got the discovery of the high elves and the whole high elf introduction thing. Prior to this in game development time, but there are potentially many groups of elves. We did remember there were elves. There were essentially elves that lost elves. Well, I don't know if, how you define lost exactly, but I need this guy, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, defeated enemies, right? But doesn't it count for that other quest too? Yeah, defeated cultists. That's what I thought I needed to do. Did he spot me right before I dabbed him? It's so vexing when they do that. Yeah. So, but I was the one I was thinking of just now was the. You're just kicking the corpse. That is so rude. Didn't your mother teach you better than that? Or maybe you're like those Gondorian children who just kick their elders. Is this what you grow up to? I gotta go tell those Gondorian children. All right, so I'm going to look around for dwarf corpses and restrict my predations here to cultists who are actively, like, kicking the corpses of dead Stout-axes. Anyway, I was remembering the Dol Amroth elves. Right, so we already have some examples. Okay, now it looks like we're running fresh out of cultists in this direction. That was one set of elves that we sort of discovered, right? Again, it's not like they weren't lost, like they knew right where they were. But we certainly have been encountering in the past sort of, splinter groups of new elves. So the real the real question is, would we encounter any Avari? Which I don't think to this point we have at any point in Lotro. Is that right? I think that's right. So that's sort of the real frontier that they still have to explore. And as I said, I don't know because I've not played it yet myself, but rumors I have heard suggest that, in fact, we get to meet some Avari in Umbar. No. Legolas isn't Avari. He's a Sindar. And even the Sylvan Elves aren't Avari. Okay. Brief recap. Yeah, it is easy to get confused. Let's do it. Let's do a brief recap of categories of elves. So remember, you can always exactly Phil. So you can always remember the elves. It's just a matter of like it's a like a continuously branching tree, but it doesn't branch into infinite branches. It's just like you keep doing other branches off the stem. So we start with all the elves live in Cuivianen. Then they split. Some stay, some leave to go to Valinor. So that's the first split. So now you have two groups of elves. The one who stayed in Cuivianen and the ones who went to Valinor. Then you have some that stay... Some that stop on the way. They're on the way to Valinor. And they don't get very far. Like they get like a small portion of the way there and they're like, nah, we're good. Right? So now you have a third group. Then you get almost to the end. You get like almost to the coast. And then another group stays. And they're like, actually, nah, we're good. We're not going to cross. We made it all the way across the continent, but we're not crossing the ocean. We're staying here. So that's your third group. Then the rest of them go over. Then they're in Valinor, and some are like, yeah, I want to come back. And some are like, nah, I don't want to go back. We're going to stay here in Valinor. It's actually kind of nice here. Even though, property values have decreased, but still, it's pretty nice. And so that's sort of the final split. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more complicated than that, just because there's multiple groups, right? You've got like the three kindred, parts of whom go here and there, and so it ends up both being and feeling more complicated than that. But essentially, the ones who went all the way across the continent but didn't cross the ocean are the Sindar. That's what Legolas is. The ones who only went a small portion of the way and then decided they didn't even want to finish crossing the continent, those are the Sylvan Elves. And that's what most of the elves of Mirkwood are, not Legolas. The royal family is different. But most of the rest of them are the Sylvan elves. Same with the elves of Lothlorien, are mostly in that second category. The ones who set out for Valinor, but didn't go very far. Yeah, Sylvan elves. But then the very first... Oops. Did the wrong thing. Oh, well. The very first group. The ones who never even set out for Valinor in the first place. Who were just like, we've got a nice place here by the shores of Cuivian and the Inland Sea. We're just going to hang. And from there kind of wandered out around, spread out a little bit. Those are the Avari. Avari means unwilling. We get them? Those we have lost? Okay, good. That's all of those. No, we don't know about Legolas's mum. Actually, so Phil and Edith's two questions, follow-up questions there, are closely related to each other, in my opinion. Edith asks, at one time, Tolkien thought about having Thranduil be Thingol, didn't he? And then Phil asks, do we know anything about Legolas's mum? So, it's not exactly like that, Edith. I wouldn't say that he thought about making Thranduil Thingol. Exactly. The situation is a little bit more complicated. Thranduil, remember, is invented in The Hobbit. And while he was writing The Hobbit, Tolkien was recycling. He was writing a children's fairy tale, and he was assembling this fairy tale out of... Do I need that patrol? No, I do not. Okay. Here, let me just pop up towards the front gate. That other quest arrow. Oh, I was already stealthed. So he's recycling. I've talked about this before, but brief recap. He's recycling stuff for this kid story that he's writing, and he's assembling it out of the materials of like all of the stories that he loves best. Things like the Voluspa, right, from the Poetic Edda, so he's got like stuff from the Poetic Edda in there. He's got stuff from Beowulf in there. Lots of stuff from Beowulf in there. And he's got oh wait, am I just... Is the gate ring just a like turn quest in place? A shadowed page. It was all worth it. This is my first shadowed page, isn't it? Yes. You have found a torn page of a tome. Like many other artifacts in this cursed land, shadows cling to it. Its written words are dripping with malice, clearly penned by a powerful servant of Sauron. Ooh. Okay, so not written by one of the elves this time. Oh, yeah.
Then Turun and Harad Sauron roamed, gifting 6 of the 9 rings to kings and chieftains, yoking peoples and armies under his command. 7 to dwarf lords in their hidden halls.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, yeah. Notice how, so it's taken... So it just wants me to come in here? Why is there a quest ring here? Is it just a generic... Oh, is that for the turn in the to Drary ring? Is that what I'm seeing there? Probably. Okay. Gotcha. That's just a generic... The quest giver you're looking for lives in this space ring. Right. Okay, yeah, right. Gotcha. Okay, no problem. So I was talking about the Hobbit. To get around eventually to Phil and Edith's observations. So I said he recycles, he takes elements from Beowulf and he takes elements from, the Norse Eddas, and he takes elements from his own stories, from his as yet unpublished and so far as he can tell never to be published Silmarillion stories. And he shamelessly recycles them. I say recycle, but they'd never been like cycled the first time, right? Essentially, but okay, all right, look, fine. I'm gonna actually just kill the dragon because I'm tired of being chased around by dragons. Like, would you please just give me some personal space? I'm looking for singed banner poles here. I got important errands to run in this area, and you're being vexatious. Don't make a nuisance of yourself any more than you have to. So he shamelessly, like, he took, well, okay, I say shamelessly recycled. Again, he hadn't cycled them. So it wasn't even, recycled isn't quite the right word for it, even. Oh, I see the problem. The problem is that they have an AoE effect, which kills my stealth, right? Is that my basic issue here? Oh, boy, now I've got goats as well. Got all kinds of awkward problems here. Okay, I'll try to be more careful about the I need to give the dragons a wider berth, is the point. Okay. All right. So yeah, he hadn't cycled him the first time, so it's not really fair to call it recycled, really. But I call it that because I'm thinking about, like, from Tolkien's own perspective. From his own perspective, it was recycling. But from any kind of outward experience of it, even frankly, that of his own children, who were the primary audience of The Hobbit. I mean, they don't know these stories. So Edith, right, we kind of put ourselves back into his position there and think, like, what does this look like from his point of view? So he comes to the Elven King, right? There's a bunch of wood elves that live in a forest in hidden halls, and they have a king, right? So what does he do? He doesn't again, you could call it recycling Thingol. You could call it like running the Thingol playbook almost, right? But he's got a model for that, right? He's like, I need an elf king of my, of a secret woodland realm. I've got a good one of those in my, the drawer in which I keep literary ideas and cool sentences that I've never gotten to use in another work yet. So I'm gonna pull that out, and I'm gonna use that in The Hobbit. He does this all the time in The Hobbit. But you can't say that he is Thingol, because he's not. And why is he not Thingol? At no point is Thranduil Thingol. And I feel like that can be proved. Absolutely proved. Because we don't know who Legolas's mom is. Phil, back to your point. if the definition of Thingol's character, like the cornerstone of Thingol's story, is his meeting with Melian. Melian, his very famous wife and even more famous daughter, are, as I say, they're not just like important elements in Thingol's story. They are cornerstones of Thingol's story. And so therefore, in my opinion, there is no sensible way to even... there's no sensible way to say... you can't have Thingol without him. So he is like Thingol. He is based on Thingol. He's inspired by Thingol, right? Thranduil always was. But he never was simply Thingol. Yeah. Emmanuel says if Melian was his mom, Legolas would definitely be a strange elf. For sure. For sure. Okay, I gotta go all the way to the other side of those lava cracks, because I know better than to try to cross them. And he'd be Aragorn's uncle. And Elrond's, Droustic does not even get into that. The generations are so crazed. But yeah. Anyway, it's okay, I gotta keep going further. There's Lûghash there. Anyway, so back to... how did I get onto this digression? Oh yeah, the elves and the divisions of the elves. So we've met Noldor, High Elves. We've met Sindar. We've met Sylvan Elves. What we, to this point in the game, to my knowledge, have never met is an Avari. The original elves who... okay. So I think I can get back through there. Every time I play Lotro, I feel a surge of gratitude to the devs for giving me more quest notification, like expanding the quest bar. Oh man, that was so key. Let's see, are those in the Lord of the Rings? Might Lotro have the capability to have us meet them at some point? Oh, what, the Avari? Oh, yeah. Well, so are they in the Lord of the Rings? Is that word used in the Lord of the Rings? I don't think so. I mean, JJ, you could do a quick search for that. I have to go down there? I don't want to go down there. What's down there? Why would I go down there? Okay, I'm not going to go down there. I'm just going over here. I can't remember if it's used in the appendices. Avari, yes. A-V-A-R-I. Yeah, I don't remember meeting any Avari in the Lord of the Rings story. The question is, are they alluded to? The Dolomarth elves are Sylvan elves. Yeah. Okay, yeah, the word Avari doesn't appear. I didn't think it did. Right, so the Dolomarth elves called themselves Avorim, which means they were playing on the same word. Like there's unwilling and then there's unwilling. One can be unwilling for multiple, like there are many different decisions one has the opportunity to be unwilling to make, right? The Avari are the elves who were unwilling to set out for Valinor. That's the original Avari situation. But yeah, I'm forgetting the details of the Avorim story, but I have a vague memory that there was an unwillingness to set out, but it wasn't like their unwillingness to, because remember that whole place by Dol Amroth, that was in Elf Haven, where the elves sailed. Ooh, I'm done. I am done with singed poles. How exciting. Okay, so as I recall, there was some story about like how they were there at the harbor, right at the Elf Harbor, but they didn't set out for Valinor from there. So I think that's if there seems to be unwillingness involved in their name, right? And I think that's where it is. That is the thing about which they were unwilling, right? Or like slightly imperfectly willing or modestly reluctant or whatever it is that they were. But as I said, the Avari, like the big deal Avari, the unwillingness that really matters. Is the unwillingness to set out for Valinor in the first place. The very, very first division of the elves. But we know, so we don't learn about this in The Lord of the Rings, but we do learn about this in the Silmarillion. There are some of the Avari who do wander into the western part of the world, and in particular, where they come into the story indirectly, is that the men, when men awake, they encounter the Avari first before they encounter any other elves. Okay, so let's see. That's the forges. So it's secrets of the order. Collect a missive. All right. So I've got an expedition leader up ahead here. Gotcha. Hang on. This is really annoying. Can I... how do I do this? Yeah, there we go. I'm going to move this thing out of the way. It is vexing me. Hey, that's my triumph of the day, remembering how to do that. It's a command I've forgotten multiple times. Okay, hang on. Let's see. While there's no mobs about. Let's stop here. Okay, I'm gonna go around this way. Huh? Look, I didn't even notice. Wow, that black fortress is. I mean, I didn't pan upwards because I'm so short to see the fire at the top. And so therefore, that whole thing, it's like camouflaged in the igneous mountains, right? Look at that. Oh, the black and white fortresses, it's like there's like little his and hers fortresses on the slopes up here. That's fun. That's fun. It's like they started a very large scale game of chess. Okay, we've got some Order of the Eye people, which is sort of promising. Yeah, sort of promising that I'm in the right place, I mean. Oh. Oh, expedition leader. I kind of thought that I must have misunderstood this quest. Weren't these the expedition leader quests? Wasn't it about... Oh, it's about getting pieces of paper. and they're searching for artifacts, like just randomly digging random holes in Mordor, hoping there's an artifact buried there. That seems low yield, but okay. By the prophecy of Lady Abrazafel. By the prophecy of Lady Abrazafel, Sauron shall be reborn by the hands of men. As we bore witness to his downfall, we are now called to serve him once more. It is the Lady's will that his artifacts be gathered to Barad-dûr, that we might prepare for his return. The great rings he once held in Barad-dûr may have come to rest on the shattered plain of Doromarth. Right, they've come tinkling to the ground when the Nazgûl were consumed. Sure. They must be reclaimed before the fires of Ordre. That's why you're digging. Still, best of luck to you. Maybe a metal detector. Those who deliver them to Barad-dûr shall be made deathless when at last Sauron returns. Love and smooches. High Priestess Kochali. I killed another expedition leader? I didn't even notice. I think it was because I was expecting something quite different. Right, here's the other one. Be it known that Zoreth of Lûghash is thus expelled from the Order of the Eye. Ooh, she lost her membership? For the keeping of spies to be used against us, her continued attempts to wrest the Dwarf King from his prison, and most terribly, for the supreme transgression of dishonoring Sauron the Great. It was the will of Lord Sauron that the Dwarf King remain in the dungeons of Barad-dûr, and that desire is to be maintained posthumously. Okay, and so he shall until his days are ended. Indeed, the Dwarf King has been more obedient as of late, but I do not trust his sudden change in demeanor. He and the spies of Zoreth plan some deception, I am certain of it. Those of you within the Order who serve her still shall cease at once. It's a cease and desist letter. Or you will share the fate of those we have exposed and be cast into the black pits of Mordoth. Zoreth is an unfortunate loss to the Order, for her skill in the manipulation of spirits served us well, but neither she nor any of the other malformed dwarf servants... Yikes. Shall again... Is that like all of them by definition, or are her dwarf servants peculiarly malformed? Shall again pass into Barad-dûr, which has been destroyed, but that memo hasn't received, they haven't received that either. I know, its foundations are still there, presumably. By the will of Sauron, her fate is chosen. Keep a close watch on the flaming spire, and let none of her servants come to Barad-dûr. Love and smooches, Lady Abrazafel. Yes, also she hadn't paid her dues in 7 months, says Mikey Geek. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll teach her. One hopes. Wait, what? Oh, no, Slayer boost or whatever. Okay. All right. Where's my other expedition leader? Oh, in Mordoth? Oh, yeah. I gotta go all the way into Barad-dûr for that one. Okay. And then the forging ones... Okay. Oh, man. I got this. The bad guys. This is one of the things that I have to admit I find hardest in, so, wait, what's the orange one? What I'm supposed to be doing? The Legacy of Barad-dûr. What's that one? Search rubble for lesser artifacts. Complete the Wrath of Glûghash. Oh, right, it's the root quest that he gave me. Yeah. But I'm also searching rubble. And presumably that's what that orange stuff is about. So let me just do a little sweep over in this direction. Make sure there's no rubble, because I'm an expert on rubble. Do I have to go up into the invisible fortress? Excuse me. I meant to say, do I get to go up into the invisible fortress? Sorry, do y'all keep any rubble up here that may or may not include artifacts? Oh, fell spirits, huh? Oh, you're not even having any of it. Yikes. Whispers of arid Lithui. Many shadowy beings. Their numbers disturb you. Is it like an intrinsically disturbing number? And it's like is there like an unlucky number of spirits? Is that what's disturbing? Okay, now, yeah, we're just, okay. What happened to my rubble? Oh, my rubble quest got pushed off. They're doing math in a disturbing manner. Maybe. Okay, look at that. I've run out of quests even on my thing. What was this one? Talk to Brungos. Where's Brungos? He's back at... Am I going to get in trouble again? I am, aren't I? Whoa. There's a shadow fist punching me. What is going on here? There's chaos. I'm just looking at my quests, and like all of a sudden I'm being punched by a disembodied shadow fist. Defeat Shadowgrims? Is that part of my Whispers quest? Defeat Shadowgrims, defeat Felt Spirits, defeat Wraiths. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I'm here. So I might as well defeat Wraiths now that I'm here. Am I going to be sent back here? Tell you what. I don't want to get into trouble. I'm going to go back to Brungos in case he's going to send it. Because I'm now, like, deep in towards Barad-dûr. And I got to go back to the Epic. I'm a mess now. I got so many quests going on, I can't even handle it. Okay. So I need to get more, clearly. Hey, Brungos. What do you got for me, Epic Quest-wise?
Can it be that this land was once much like any other?
I have faced many foes here myself, but still my mind worries at the subject about which we spoke. Can it be that this land was much the same as any other, but the coming of Sauron laid waste to it? There are countless reasons to rejoice that he is gone, but even for one among many, it must approach the top of the list. If he could do this to Mordor, could he not have worked such a change upon Gondor, or upon Rohan, or upon Eriador? Yeah, no, that's kind of what we were fighting for. I deem that he could. Further, I contend that the transformation of Dor Amarth to this blasted plain was not accidental. I believe he did it purposefully, with malicious intent. If not for some scheme, then merely for the hateful joy of it. I don't think it's about joy, Brungos. I spoke about this with Covadil, who shared the passage of Eisenmouth with me, who dared the passage of Eisenmouth with me. I think it was she who first planted these thoughts in my mind, and now I cannot stop thinking of them. She intended to travel northeast to Lûghash. Ha, see, I knew it. I warned her to be careful, but she found that mirthful and laughed at my warning. She's a scholar and a bit odd, but I do hope she's being careful all the same. Perhaps you could find her and see how she fares. Uh-huh. Thought the epic quest might take me towards Lûghash. Yes, exactly, Drousting. Brungos is kind of processing, right? Wow, Sauron really was evil, wasn't he? Yeah, no, I think joy is... I mean, look, I can't blame Brungos for imagining it to be joy. But I think that, philosophically speaking, I think that he's quite wrong. The thing that drives Tolkien's villains, arch-villains, to be destructive like they are, to just destroy things, is not a joy in destruction. It's nihilism. Nihilism and an utter extremity of self-absorption, essentially. Whoa! Hey, Phil. Phil has kindly pointed out that, in fact, I'm over my time. I hadn't even noticed. I was having so much fun with y'all, but I don't want to encroach here. Let me get myself back to Lûghash here. I will go up and I'll find the retroactively, unfortunately named Covadil. No, I should stop anyway, Druid's Fire. Sadly, I have other things I have to do as well. But we'll get back up here to Lûghash, and then we'll continue this like web of quests I have opened up here. Somehow. But I'm glad I didn't lag behind too far on the epic quest again. I remember I'm trying to keep current with that. To keep current in the landscape, I mean, so that like the epic quest is pushing me to parts of the landscape where I'm also doing other quests. And that certainly seems to fit this description here. Besides which, the overall, it's more satisfying from a narrative standpoint as well, because the epic quest line is sort of like the thread on which the beads of the regional quests are strung, and so it makes more sense to be like, I bet Covadil is going to tell us something about Zoreth here, which will contextualize both what we've learned from the Stout-axes and what we've learned from reading the mail of the cultists and learning about their, little grievances. Okay. So she's in here somewhere? Oh, yeah. Just kind of standing there. Okay. Excellent. Well, we will end here then. Very good, everybody. Well, thank you for joining me today. This was a really fun, so much fun. I lost track of time. Delightful there. I'm going to be away for, however, unfortunately for a couple weeks. At least... Okay, definitely next week I won't be here. I might be here the week after that, and I definitely won't be here the week after that. So I'm entering into a period of travel again. I'm going to be traveling down to Australia for Osmoot. No, I won't be out for all... Well, next week is going to be tough. But anyway, we will see. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of things still unfolding. But anyway, thanks everybody for joining me today. Will not be here next week. Might be here the week after next is the thing. But in the meantime, stay tuned for Druid's Fire. All right. Thanks everybody. Bye now.
Thanks for joining in on my rambles around Standing Stone's brilliant digital adaptation of Tolkien's world. If you enjoy these adventures, please consider supporting this and other entertaining educational programming by donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.